Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Rotary Thursday. It's nice to see everyone here this morning. We have a full house on the in-person side, and I think we're slowly getting a full house on the Zoom side. So good morning, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? Thumbs up if you can. Okay, sounds good. So we're going to go ahead and start with the invocation. And Tim Stone, who I don't know if he knows he has the invocation this morning. So thank you, Tim. So if you don't mind coming up so the Zoom side can hear you and get the meeting started.
All right, thanks. I have a mask. It's on the table. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this time together, and thank you for allowing us to come together. And we just ask that you bless this crowd and our family and our friends and this country and help us to heal together. And we just ask that your spirit will fill all of our hearts and leave no room for the hatred and divisiveness. And we pray that you bless this food to our nourishment to your service. Amen.
Okay, thank you, Tim. And on the in-person side, we're going to go ahead and do the pledge. So if you please stand and face the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you. So we're going to start with guests and then visiting Rotarians. If there's any visiting Rotarians, we do have two guests on our side, and I'll start with the first person who came here, Adam. If you don't mind coming up, Adam and his colleague Brent. Is it Brent? Brett. We're going to join us about 2 weeks ago, and they weren't able to do that. But Adam is with us here today. Just wants to check out the club. So I've just asked Adam to introduce himself and where he works.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
My name's Adam Hackler. I'm with a local company called Axiom Incorporated. We are an aviation company. We specialize in major modifications, alterations, repairs, basic maintenance of aircraft. We just recently became certified for aerial search and rescue as well as aerial fire rescue. We are also working on a few other contracts involving Disney and a few other Hollywood names. We were just recently featured on an episode. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the show on Fox called The Resident. If anybody's familiar with that, we were just featured on an episode of that. We're a very small company, 30 employees stateside, but over 100 employees as contractors in Afghanistan. A lot of us are former military, including myself. A little bit about myself. I worked on Apache helicopters in the Army. I got out, had a few warehouse jobs and whatnot. Spent a long time wanting to get back into aviation. Axiom was gracious enough to give me an opportunity to work with them. I've been with them since September of last year. They have grown just massively and quickly, more than anybody anticipated. We just we're wanting to give back to the community. We want to get involved in community projects, things like that. Get our name out there, build a good rapport with the community as well. I'm originally from Madison, right off of County Line Road. Anybody who knows Bailey Erickson, she was my neighbor. And if anybody recognizes my mom's name, maybe her name's Tracy Hackler. That's my mother. So I'm just kind of here today on behalf of Axiom to kind of observe, see what the Rotary Club is about, and tell you guys a little bit about us. Does anybody have any? I don't know if I can do questions or whatnot.
Family, kids.
I am married. I have 2 children. My daughter's 10 and my son is 6. My daughter is 10 going on 18. My son is 6. All the behaviors that we just broke my daughter of, my son is starting to pick up. So unfortunately for him, mom and dad have been through this. So we're going to try to nip it in the bud, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. Thank you.
And we have our moments here, Adam. If today wasn't the greatest, just come back next week. It'll get there. So, okay. And we also have another guest, Miss Crystal, who's a guest of Melissa's. Crystal, if you don't mind coming up and introducing yourself, please.
Good morning as well. So I'm Crystal. I moved here actually in Alabama in July from Arizona, which I am a native of, which is very rare in Arizona actually. But I have my own accounting practice. I do business and individual taxes and any kind of accounting needs businesses have. I have 3 girls who all go to school in Madison City. I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary daughter. So they're it's crazy life. We were spending time yesterday working on course catalogs and figuring out where they were going to take classes, where they were going to take next year. So anyways, but I'm happy to be here. We really like Madison and are excited to
Hey, Peter, the sound went out. We don't hear any sound right now.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So again, feel free to join us again next week, kind of get a feel for the club. We have different programs. Sometimes next week is a good week because it's our assembly and we'll be the chairs of our different areas. We'll be talking about what we've done so far this past year, even though it was a different year, and what the next few months will look like for our year. And then the Rotary year changes in July, and then we'll have new leadership, new chairs and things like that. So, but next year will be a good recap of some of the community service things that we've done in Madison. So again, welcome. Are there any visitors aside from our speaker and on the Zoom side?
Yes, Susie Proctor's in there on the Zoom side.
Okay, we have Susie, Dan's wife on the Zoom side, and Susie's been our speaker before, so welcome, Susie. Did you want to say a few words, Susie, or good? Okay, she's good. Okay, any other visitors? Any visiting Rotarians? All right, we'll move over to announcements. Should I try to keep the ball rolling so Anne can have plenty of time to tell us about the Humane Society? A couple announcements. Food distribution will be this Monday again. Is it at 9 a.m.? 9 a.m. food distribution. If anybody wants to help, come check it out. It'll be at the stadium, but that's an ongoing project from Food to Families. Is that Food to Families? Farmers to Families. So 9 a.m. if you want to check it out. Now, Mark's been very involved, and a lot of Rotarians have kind of come in and joined. So if you're available on Mondays, feel free to stop by. Any other announcements, good news, things that you want to share with the club? I'll open it up. Go ahead, Tim.
With the CDC guidelines are changing and they're letting more people get closer together. And I don't know how that affects us, but that's trickled down. Could affect the population we put in this room.
Yeah, so Tim just mentioned that the CDC guidelines are kind of changing and evolving. I asked Daniel Casambera, the executive director, a couple weeks ago, what that means to our club when we can relax the 20 people rule in the room. And he said that they're actually talking about that, the board and the YMCA. So he'll let us know as soon as they make a decision. I know April 6th, the mask mandate for Alabama goes away. So I don't know if that'll be when Daniel comes back and kind of changes the rules for the 20 people. I know a lot of people have been vaccinated in this room. I get my second vaccine today. That's a kind of a brag. I don't have to drive the 3 hours to get it. I was able to switch my appointment to Providence instead of beautiful Union Springs, Alabama. So I'll be going to Providence today to get my second shot. Any other announcements, brags, before we move on to club business? Okay. If you have something you feel free to chime in. RLI sign up. There was a couple emails that went around on that yesterday. So Rotary Leadership Institute. So those are classes. If you think about being a leader in Rotary, those are a good way to start kind of that process. If you're already a leader and just want to learn more about Rotary, there's so much to learn. I'm taking class 1. I'm the president. I've never taken a Rotary Leadership Institute class, so I'll be taking the class. Go ahead, Mark.
I would just say it's not just for people who want to be in leadership roles. I mean, RLI 1 is, here's what Rotary is.
Yeah, so it's
Presentation, too.
just giving you kind of more about Rotary. And I've been in the club 11 years now, and I'm still learning about Rotary. So if you're interested, you can respond directly back to Tom Green or Will. You don't have to respond to me. I didn't know everybody was going to get that email. I thought I had to send that out. So that's it. If you have any questions about RLI, please let me know. But we're getting a lot of club involvement. I think we already have at least 10 to 12 people signed up that I know of. And I think it's because it's Zoom and virtual, which makes it a lot easier than having to go somewhere. Again, I mentioned this.
Peter, I have a question about that. Is the club still subsidizing the registration fee for that, or what's the?
Yeah, yes, sir. The club is there. It's no fee to a club member. The club has that in the budget to pay for members that are interested in that.
Thank you.
Okay. And Bob said, and I'll follow up on this, but Bob said the district might even help pay for that. So I'll get with some folks to see if that'll touch our budget or the district's budget. Mark, so you might have to pay in advance. If you do get charged, just hold on to that receipt or that page or print that page and give it to me. If there is a charge for that at some point that you experience. Any other questions about RLI sign up? Okay. Club assembly next week. So a lot of the heads of the different areas will be talking about, again, what we've done the past several months and what the future looks like in the last part of their year. So I look forward to that. Each one will take a couple minutes to share. That's all I had for club business. Does somebody else have something else that they want to bring up for the club before we start our slides? Yes, Bill?
Since I haven't been at a meeting for a year, you've been able to avoid my talk on the foundation. Can you stay away another year? I know you want me to, but I'm not going to do it. But think about all these people that Peter's had come up and have multiple awards over the last several months. They're Paul Harris Society members. And I would recommend that you think about becoming a Paul Harris Society member. Basically, it's committing yourself to $1,000 a year, making that contribution. And Rotary needs that money because we have a lot to do in the world. So think about it, $1,000, join the society.
Thank you, Bill, for keeping us on track. And every week I always try to find a little bit of Rotary news. And it's not hard for me to find it. I just decide if I want to share it. But there's so many projects going around in the world where Rotarians and the money that we contribute to that make a change in people's lives. So it's just very real. If you ever go to Rotary International, you'll see all the good, great stuff that our money's going towards for whoever contributes to the foundation. All right, I want to pull up my slides. I'm going to try to do something, and if it doesn't work, give them a second. If it doesn't work, I'll abandon it real quick. Whenever you try to go off script and use something with technology, of course, it never wants to cooperate. It's not a video, though. Where's our share screen? There we go. Not that, the bottom one. Where's the share?
Yeah, that's what I
Right
just
here.
did. There we go. You can tell I'm a Mac user.
Okay, I can take it from here. Okay, hopefully you can still hear me. I'm just going to try to do something real quick. And if it doesn't work, I'll abandon it. So this is, for those of you who've never seen it, this is DACDB. This is what it looks like. And it's such a great tool. If it's quick and easy. The hardest part is getting your login information. But once you have your login information, there's so much, so many tools and information in DACDB. It's just a game changer as far as Rotary is concerned and your involvement in the club. So, okay. So all you have to do, and I wanted to go to the login screen, but because I already logged in, it got me in right away. But if you've never logged in, the address is dacdb.com. You can, if you have trouble logging in, just reach out to Cynthia or Dennis. Either of them two folks will get you in the right direction. And then once you put in your login information and your password, it's saved. So you almost never have to worry about that again. You can write it down somewhere or in a keeper if you want. But this is what the front page of DACDB looks like once you log in. And you'll have the different, this is the PSA that I shared with you 2 weeks ago about what we're doing with the children's transport. And then different stories, monarch butterfly. So Carla is one of the writers for this. So you see our club featured a lot. I think there's a little bit bias in there. Then you get into your data. If it's out of if it's wrong or outdated, you can update it here. Put the right email address, the right phone numbers, and then when you go to my club, here's what I really use a lot. So if you're leading something and you need information about different club members, for instance, just click on club members, and say I want to do something international and I'm new and I don't know who John Allen is. I just want to see what he looks like. You just click on John Allen right here, and there's a picture of John. So again, it's a very useful tool. That's my PSA. I'll get out of this now and pull this.
File sharing thing in there is also great for keeping up. There's a huge archive of our files, things that we've built in the past.
And I'll mention that in a second. And the file sharing and things like that, we have all, you have access to all this stuff as Rotarians. Let me change this display. And again, all right, that's my DACDB PSA. Again, there's files in there. If you want history of the club, things that we've done prepare, it's all in there in secure files, and you should have access to all of that stuff. So again, if just dacdb.com, the hardest step is just getting your log information. Once you're there, you'll always use that tool whenever you have anything Rotary related to do. Okay, next slide. Couple of birthdays and celebrations we just want to mention. Tom Lemieux, is it yesterday? 2 days ago, had a birthday. So we didn't meet last week. So I didn't have a chance to tell Tom happy birthday. So Tom, happy birthday. Hope it was a good one. David is celebrating his birthday with us today. So I saw Chief Bailey on the Zoom. Happy birthday, Chief. I hope you have a good day. I hope you get some cake and cupcakes at the firehouse. Bill Drake, I think you mentioned Bill Drake. You'll be 55 next week. So Bill's having a birthday on the 29th. It's a special birthday. I'll have my 11-year anniversary on the 25th. Time flies when you're having fun. So I thought I was here 13 years, but I was adding years to myself. It's been 11. And then wedding anniversaries, Larry and Monica a couple days ago celebrated a big anniversary. And Larry, I don't know if you're on the Zoom, but for some reason the year wasn't on there. So I don't know how many years you've been married. If you're on the Zoom, if you want to chime in, that'd be great. If not, we'll just leave it at that. All right, happy anniversary. Next slide. And then over the next couple of weeks, again, club assembly tomorrow, Sunset Club meeting on the 6th, and then small business challenges. I think there's some Rotarians, Bailey's involved in that one, telling us what some of their challenges are that were COVID related. So there'll be small businesses in Madison sharing some information. Excited about Dr. Neil Lamb coming on the 15th. He works with Hudson Alpha, and if anybody's seen his videos on COVID, he makes great videos where he makes the science easy for us normal folk that aren't involved in the science world. And then pretty interesting, on the 22nd and 29th, we're going to have back-to-back politics discussions. There's no bias in it. It's just strictly about general politics, not one side or the other or any sides. It's just about the good, the bad, and the ugly in Alabama politics. And then the next week is the same speaker, ideological labels in politics and modern American politics. So that's interesting. So look forward to that. Okay, That is all I have. I'm going to invite Dan up here so he could introduce our guest speaker today, Miss Anne Caldwell, who's going to share some information about the Huntsville Humane Society. Dan? Yeah, she has it on her side. So if you want to get out of it, okay.
All right. Susie and I met Anne in a book club at the public library back in the day when we first moved here. So we've known her for a while. Anne Caldwell, CEO for Greater Huntsville Humane Society, has loved animals her entire life. But it was not until she met a little dog named Randy that found her that she knew everything was about to change. After finishing her master's degree in library information and science, library and information science, and moving to Madison, Alabama for a full-time public librarian position, she found herself getting lonely. A new town, a new place, all made for the perfect opportunity to get a new dog. She visited Huntsville Animal Services for the first time in years and was immediately stricken by the many, many rows of homeless animals all begging for her attention. Moved to tears, she finally made her way to the puppy corral, where she first laid eyes on Randy. He was emaciated, partially bald, surrounded by destroyed toys, and totally beside himself. He was trembling, wailing, and when he saw Anne, he begged her to get him out. Anne made a promise to Randy that day that she would get him healthy and that he would never know hunger or loneliness ever again. The rest, as they say, is history. Anne started volunteering with A New Leash on Life and Huntsville Animal Services and jumped into advocacy as well with No Kill Huntsville. It wasn't long before she was offered a full-time position in animal welfare and has been working her way up since then all the way to CEO. Since starting at GHHS, adoption numbers have jumped from an average of 500 to 600 a year to over 1,000. And many exciting expansion projects are underway as well. Please help me welcome Anne Caldwell.
Thank you, Dan, for the very kind introduction. I'm always, sometimes I hear that introduction and I'm still humbled by it because I haven't been in the industry for very long. I have worked with several different organizations and they say the old saying, who rescued whom? It's very true for me. I know it sounds crazy. It sounds a little cheesy, but I totally credit my little dog, Randy. He changed my life and really opened my eyes to this whole world that I kind of knew existed, but I guess I didn't really know quite how deep and how bad it was, specifically in our home state of Alabama. So I not only promised Randy that day that I would get him healthy and take him to safety, but I have actually made that promise to all the animals that I've come into contact with since that day. And I'm proud of what we've done so far. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Excuse me. I think that y'all probably are able to see in person up on the big screen, but for those who are on Zoom, we will share with you as well. Give me just 1 second. All right. So first and foremost, who are we? I'm sure that many of you have heard of the Greater Huntsville Humane Society and probably know that our main function and main priority is to adopt out animals, homeless animals. We receive our animals in many different ways. We are not animal control. So we are not actually out in the streets picking up stray animals, although sometimes we end up with stray animals. We exist more to provide assistance to owners who find themselves unable to take care of their animals. We get a lot of accidental or unwanted, unplanned for litters of puppies and kittens, people who don't necessarily want to give up their pet, but don't know how to take care of or aren't able to take care of a full litter of puppies or full litter of kittens. And then we do also pull from some different area shelters. So if we have open kennels, we'll go to Huntsville Animal Services, of course, but also 5 surrounding counties. So Marshall County, Morgan County, Lawrence County, DeKalb County, and even have gone as far as Blount County and occasionally Jefferson County. We will pull animals from those shelters if they are in danger of euthanasia, and we are able to pull if we have room. In addition to our adoption program, which is, I'm sure, what most of you think of when you think of the Humane Society, we actually have a lot of other community assistance programs. We have a lot of prevention programs. We have a lot of education programs. Lots of programs and services that don't just adopt out animals once they find themselves homeless, but really try to proactively attack the problem of why animals become homeless. So that's what I'm going to focus on today, because that's really, I think, what has pivoted and changed the most during COVID. And I also think it's probably the least well-known part of what we do. So whenever I'm given this opportunity, I always like to at least explain and touch on our different programs and services. And then, of course, we'll go over how you might be able to help if this is something that interests you, and also answer some questions if you guys have any of them. So the first program that I want to share with you guys is called King's Community Kitchen. It is basically a pet food bank. It started when a volunteer who worked for the Humane Society several years ago was approached by an individual who had found themselves homeless. They had a beloved companion. He was a pit bull named King. You could really tell that this person had bonded very deeply with their dog, and the dog with the human. There are studies upon studies that show the positive impact that animals can have on mental health and physical health, reducing risks of a lot of things. And we're not in the business of taking animals away if we can help it. So the man who brought us King, he didn't want to give his dog up, and that was pretty apparent right away. He was working in some other areas, some other nonprofit areas, to kind of get himself back on track, to get his feet back from under him and kind of build his life back up again. And what we decided to do was help him keep his dog, instead of adding to the blow of losing his job, potentially, his home, his family. So what we did was we came up with a program called King's Community Kitchen. It is a free pet food distribution for people who make less than $35,000 a year. They can qualify for 9 distributions a year. And there are some caveats to the program. We don't want to, we don't want to be taken advantage of. We don't, certainly don't want to enable any neglect or cruelty situations. So we do have some caveats and some criteria in place to try to make sure that we don't see that. So those things are, their animal has to be spayed or neutered. If they can't afford to spay or neuter their animal, they can sign up for a different program to make sure that their animal is spayed or neutered. They can't add any animals to their home during the time that they're on this program. So if you need assistance feeding and taking care of one animal, we don't need to add any more to your household, right? So they agree to that. And during COVID, this was probably the single biggest uptick that we saw in terms of need. There were tons of people who were losing their jobs, or even if they didn't lose their job completely, they were furloughed. They were, working less hours. They're, servers, restaurant workers, people in the entertainment. I mean, they're just across the board. People were really falling on hard times. And so what we did in, I think it was the first maybe 4 or 5 months of the pandemic, was we lifted almost all of those criteria. So we typically require proof of income. We didn't require that. And the response was just overwhelming. On the next slide here, you'll see in December of 2020, we distributed over 11,000 pounds of dog and cat food to local pet owners. And what we also saw was that people were struggling, not just on an individual level, but also the animal welfare industry was struggling. What we saw was a lot of people were interested in fostering, a lot of people were interested in volunteering. We did have a little uptick in fosters and adoptions, which is fantastic. But what we were seeing simultaneously was a decline in donations. People were more likely to either not make a donation if they had fallen on hard times, or donate to more human service type organizations. There was a big focus on obviously health organizations and food banks for humans, things like that. And that's totally understandable. And we absolutely, expect and anticipate that. What we wanted to do to try and help the animal welfare specific groups and nonprofits that were struggling is sort of share the load. So in addition to distributing the 11,000 pounds of dog and cat food to local pet owners, as in individuals and individual families, but we also distributed over 12,000 pounds to other animal rescue groups and welfare groups. So the Athens Limestone Shelter, for example, Forget Me Not Animal Rescue, Battle for Empathy, which is a cat-specific rescue organization. They were really struggling to get through the pandemic. Their donations were dwindling while they still had, a program full of animals to take care of. So we tried to not just help people on an individual level, but also kind of help the animal welfare industry and animal welfare community as a whole in our town. So that was something that really shifted and pivoted in the pandemic. And I would say probably became our most utilized, our most called about, asked about, enrolled in, most important probably program that we offer. The other program that also saw a pretty big uptick in attendance, especially during the pandemic, was our pet wellness clinics. So this is in partnership, it's kind of the same principle, but it's in partnership with Rocket City Mobile Vet. Dr. Renee Holt she's been a board member in the past. She owns Rocket City Mobile Vet. She's actually in the process of opening up a stable, not mobile, sedentary brick and mortar clinic out in Madison. So if any of you are looking for a veterinarian, Dr. Holt and her team are amazing, and they are opening up shop permanently in Madison. But the mobile leg of their business, what they do, they would donate a day basically of services to us. They would come to our program, to our property, and set up their mobile vet clinic in our parking lot and offer very heavily discounted veterinary services. So the way that we were able to pull that off is Dr. Holt pretty much donated her time. She donated her labor and her employees. We did it on a Saturday, where GHHS allocated a portion of our budget to buying her the supplies. So we applied for grants, we did donation drives, et cetera, to purchase extra vaccinations, preventives, flea and tick prevention, heartworm tests, things like that, to offer this to low-income families as well. So again, if a pet is in a loving home and maybe that home has just fallen on financial crisis, or needs help making ends meet, or maybe they adopted a pet and didn't quite know what they were getting themselves into, we try to offer resources to help keep loved pets in their homes, rather than trying to get them taken away and ultimately lead to more crowding in the shelter. The things that the Pet Wellness Clinic does, in addition to vaccinations and the preventives, is just a general wellness exam. So for just $12, you can get sort of a once over for your dog or cat. It includes basic blood work. So any big health problems, the most common one we see is heartworm disease, can be identified. And then from there, if it's a big financial burden, such as heartworm disease, we have our third and final Helping Paws program, King's Kitchen, Pet Wellness Clinic, and this last third one is called the Good Samaritan program. And I apologize, I don't know where my slide for that one went, so we're going to stay on Rocket City Mobile Vet for a minute. But the Good Samaritan voucher program is basically a voucher that takes care of costs associated with veterinary care that is not routine or preventive. So this goes beyond your vaccinations, your flea and tick preventions, your wellness exam. And this is more, at that wellness exam, we discovered, unfortunately, that your dog has heartworm disease, or at that wellness exam, we discovered, unfortunately, that your cat has feline leukemia or FIV. A lot of times, if there's a pet owner who's already under the $35,000 threshold, any kind of bill like that is going to be pretty crippling. Heartworm disease specifically, the treatment is 90 days in duration and over $1,000 at most vets. It is a series of melarsoline shots, which is an arsenic-based poison. It is basically an insecticide that's injected into the dog's back. It slowly kills the worms in their heart. They pump them out. It's a kind of a long, brutal process, but it's also a very costly process because in addition to those shots, the dog has to be on antibiotics. They have to be on Canine Advantage Multi. It's quite a commitment and quite a process. And unfortunately, it is something that we see very often in Alabama. You guys know the mosquitoes around here, they are brutal. That's how heartworms are passed from dog to dog. It is not contagious from dog to dog, but it is passable through mosquitoes. So if the dog is not on heartworm prevention, which many of the candidates for King's Kitchen and Pet Wellness Clinic are not, it's more likely to be injected by an infected mosquito and thus contract heartworm. So it's a way for us to, again, tackle this problem of food deserts for pets, lack of prevention for things like that, and then also emergency help. So King's Kitchen, Pet Wellness Clinic, Good Samaritan, all three kind of work together in a step-by-step holistic approach to keeping pets in loving homes. Really the most important thing that I think about when I think about these things is not just the act of treatment and prevention or feeding, but also the education, right? A lot of these pet owners, sometimes they truly don't know what they're getting themselves into. Maybe they find a stray puppy, maybe they do adopt a dog or cat and just don't quite know what they've gotten themselves into. They didn't know what a financial burden it was going to be to have a pet. So we try to educate them as we're doing this. You know, we can help you right now, but we also want to be clear, like, this is the budget of what is typical in owning an animal. So there's a coaching element too that sort of helps them understand the future. And ultimately, we know that some people don't have the financial stability to have a pet. So if after these three programs, there is still an inability to provide proper care for the animal, of course, we will take it into our program and rehome the animal. But instead of trying to have that as a first stop or a go-to, we're trying to tackle some of these problems that land animals in shelters to begin with, and try to meet them where they are.
Hi, Ann. It's Peter. I just want to give you the 5-minute heads up.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you. Once you get me talking about animals, it's hard to make me stop. So I appreciate it, but that's good. Have just, I think, 2 or 3 more slides. So as I mentioned, in addition to those programs, obviously we do offer rehoming services. So our official announcement in 2020 was that we adopted out over 1,000 animals, 1,116 to be exact. This is a historically high number for the Humane Society. The Humane Society has exactly 18 dog kennels for adult dogs. We have 1 very small cat room. So we do this with very small physical capacity, a very, very small team of staff and employees, a big team of foster homes, a big team of volunteers, and creative ways to move more animals through adoption events, transports, and things like that. For the sake of time, I'm going to skip on down to my next one. We do obviously always need volunteers. We always need donors. We always need help. Things have been very interesting during COVID. Like I said, we did see sort of a downtick in financial contributions. So I've included our tax ID number and our CFC or combined federal campaign number there at the bottom. If either of you feel inclined to make a financial contribution, you can do that on our website. We also have several exciting sponsorship opportunities. I know I see some familiar faces out there, and actually on the Zoom side as well, Mr. Bill Holtzclaw has always been a wonderful supporter of the dog ball. So thank you to him. And more information on all of that can be found at ghhs.org.
Hey, Anne, I have a couple of questions if you can squeeze them in.
Absolutely.
Oh, good. Questions.
Very last slide. Any questions?
Yeah. One of the big questions I have is there are so many pet, humane groups around, organizations, and I wonder how you interface with them. I know that I'm working currently with New Leash on Life, which I know you're familiar with, but it seems to me that there are a lot of synergy that could be established with that, with some sort of organizational or some sort of group sync, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. So before, I hate using this excuse because I know everyone's tired of hearing it, but before COVID, we did have plans to actually set up a monthly meeting for the executive directors, CEOs of all the North Alabama shelters. So Karen at Huntsville Animal Services, Bethany at Felines and Canines, Diana at FOR. It's a wonderful industry full of wonderful people. And you're right, there is strength in numbers, and what we can do together is always going to supersede what any individual organization can do. Because of COVID, those have kind of been put on hold a little bit, but I do want to get back to them. In the meantime, we have collaborated with other organizations on several projects. So you mentioned New Leash on Life specifically. I'll start there. We tackled a guinea pig hoarding situation with New Leash on Life semi-recently. There was a home that had over 50 guinea pigs. Several of them were pregnant. So we knew we could not tackle that by ourselves. And we often will call on other organizations to share the load. You know, sometimes we'll agree, we'll provide the food if you can help with the fosters, or vice versa. So we absolutely work collaboratively on situations like that. We also work very well with transport partnerships. So Felines and Canines is another example. They don't do local adoptions. They focus primarily on transporting animals up to Chicago. So we have a transport van as well and do transport sometimes. And we kind of reserve a couple spots for them, and they do the same for us. So
I have one more quick question, if you don't mind. You said that you rescued 1,116. My question is how many were euthanized?
So we're a no-kill shelter. So luckily, we personally did not euthanize any. Huntsville is a very, very lucky city. Huntsville Animal Services live release rate, as it's called in the industry, is in the 90%. So they have almost achieved no kill status. They're what we call low kill shelter. However, if you look even across the state or globally, the numbers are staggering. In Alabama, thousands are euthanized daily, and across the country, 2.5 million are euthanized every year. So the numbers are staggering. We are a no kill shelter. So the higher our number is, obviously, we hope that the lower the euthanasia number in Alabama is, but there's always more. There's always more we can help.
Okay, I think we're just about out of time. And thank you for the talk as a pet owner and pet lover. I appreciate everything you're doing. Thank you for everything you're doing for for the Humane Society, and I appreciate that you're a no-kill shelter. So I think everybody has Anne's information. If you don't, you can take a quick picture of her slide there. If you have more questions for her, feel free to give her a contact her. So thank you again, Anne, for being our speaker today. Okay. We will go. Is there anything else before we close for the day? Okay. If not, we're going to go ahead and stand and on the in-person side for the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. First, the truth. Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it be beneficial? And fourth, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Okay. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Stay safe.